Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Have you ever felt like you were stuck in a cycle, barely able to catch a break? Imagine being someone who spends their days just trying to make ends meet, never thinking that one simple mistake could change your entire life. This is exactly what happened to Emma Brooks, a young woman who was struggling to keep her head above water, both financially and emotionally. Emma worked long hours at a small café, waiting tables, and barely managing to pay rent every month. Her life wasn't glamorous, it was a constant hustle. One evening, after another exhausting shift, Emma was looking forward to a quiet night at home when she received a call from her best friend Jenny. "Hey Emma, you've got a blind date tonight. I promise he's a good guy," Jenny insisted, her voice full of excitement. Emma hesitated. A blind date was the last thing she wanted after a long day at work. But Jenny had been pushing her for weeks, so she reluctantly agreed. "All right, I'll go. But if he's a weirdo, I'm leaving right away," Emma joked, trying to sound more enthusiastic than she felt. That night, Emma found herself at an upscale restaurant in the heart of the city. The warm, subdued lighting and the clinking of silverware made her feel like an outsider. She adjusted her second-hand dress and glanced nervously at her shoes, scuffed from too many long shifts. The luxury of the place felt worlds away from her modest reality. She scanned the tables, her heart pounding as she searched for her date. "Table 7, she muttered to herself, reminding herself that she could do this. She approached a man sitting alone, absorbed in his phone. He was sharply dressed, and his presence seemed to command the room. Emma took a deep breath and walked over to him, a nervous smile on her face. "Hi, you must be Kevin. I'm Emma, nice to meet you," she said, her voice a little shaky. The man, who had been deep in thought, looked up in surprise. For a moment, he stared at her as if unsure of what to say. Then he smiled faintly. Hi, Emma," he replied, his voice calm, but with an undertone of confusion. But Emma didn't notice. She thought he was just shy. She slid into the seat across from him, trying to hide her nerves. "I know this is a little awkward, but hey, blind dates, right? Jenny told me you might be a bit quiet. So don't worry, I can talk enough for both of us." The man opened his mouth, but hesitated, glancing down at his phone again. His business meeting had just been canceled, and something about Emma's earnest smile made him pause. She wasn't like the polished socialites he usually met. There was something refreshing about her, something real. He leaned back in his chair and gave her a slight smile. "Yeah, blind dates, there's something else." Emma laughed nervously, then took a sip of her water. "Tell me about it. Jenny has been trying to set me up for months, but I've been too busy with work." "What do you do?" Liam asked, his curiosity piqued. "I'm a waitress," Emma admitted, fiddling with the edge of her napkin. "Not exactly glamorous, but it pays the bills. Well, most of them." "And you? What do you do?" she asked, eager to shift the attention away from herself. Liam hesitated for a second. "I work in tech," he said simply, not elaborating further. Emma smiled brightly, trying to make the conversation flow. "Tech, huh? That's cool. Like coding in apps?" "I'm terrible with computers." Liam's smile widened as he leaned back in his chair. "Something like that," he said, his voice warmer now. The conversation continued, surprisingly easy for two people who were supposed to be strangers. Emma shared stories about her shifts at the diner, the struggles of paying rent, and her dream of one day opening her own art studio. Liam found himself laughing more than he had in months, her enthusiasm contagious. She wasn't like the women he usually met, calculating, polished, and always focused on status. Emma was refreshingly real. Just as the conversation was starting to flow, Emma's phone buzzed. She glanced down at the message and felt her stomach drop. "Hey, Emma, where are you?" "I'm at table 7. Looking forward to meeting you." Her heart sank as she reread the message, and she looked up at Liam, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "You're not Kevin, are you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam's smile faltered, and guilt flickered in his eyes. "No, I'm not," he admitted. Emma stood up abruptly, her face red as she grabbed her coat. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I thought you were someone else," she said, backing away quickly. Wait, Emma, Liam called after her, standing up as well. It's okay, really. But she was already making her way to the door, her face burning with embarrassment. Liam watched her go, a strange mix of regret and curiosity swirling in his chest. He had meant to correct her from the start, but now he found himself wondering if he'd ever see her again, and why the thought of not seeing her bothered him so much. As Emma rushed out of the restaurant, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just made a huge fool of herself. She hoped she would never have to face the man again. But deep down, she couldn't help but feel there was something different about him, something that made her want to see him again. After Emma rushed out of the restaurant, her heart was still racing. She kept her head down as she stepped onto the busy sidewalk, trying to shake off the embarrassment. She kept thinking about the man she'd just met, Liam. He seemed kind, calm, and so much different from the polished crowd she was used to. But the moment she realized she'd sat at the wrong table, it felt like everything had unraveled. As she walked toward her apartment, her phone buzzed with a text message from Jenny. Emma, you okay? You didn't just bail, did you? Tell me everything. Emma stared at the message for a second, her thumb hovering over the keyboard. She let out a small laugh, shaking her head as she typed back. I sat at the wrong table. Definitely not Kevin. I'm an idiot. She hit send, tucking the phone into her pocket and continuing her walk. The night air was cold, but it felt like a small comfort compared to the whirlwind of awkwardness she had just experienced. The next day, Emma was back at the cafe, waiting tables, her mind drifting between the routine of her shifts and the strange encounter from the night before. She tried to brush it off, but every time she thought about Liam, a strange warmth spread in her chest. She didn't even know why she was thinking about him so much. He was just some guy, or so she tried to convince herself. Around noon, the cafe started to get busier, and Emma was running between tables, trying to keep up with the orders. That's when she saw him, Liam, standing at the counter, looking around as if he was searching for something or someone. His presence was just as striking as it had been the night before. And now, here he was, in her world. Her heart skipped a beat as she quickly looked away, hoping he hadn't spotted her. But of course, he had. Liam's eyes met hers, and for a moment, the whole room seemed to fade away. He gave her a small smile and made his way over to her. Hey, Emma, he said, his voice calm and easy. Liam, she asked, trying to sound casual, though her pulse was racing. I was wondering if you'd be working today, he said with a smile. I came by to apologize for last night. I should have said something sooner, but I didn't want to embarrass you more. Emma blinked, unsure of how to react. She felt her face flush with heat, but she couldn't deny that a small part of her was glad to see him. She hadn't expected this, not from the guy who had been sitting at the wrong table. It's okay, Emma said, nervously tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. I was the one who messed up. Totally my fault. Liam smiled again, and there was something reassuring in his eyes. Still, I felt bad about it. So, I wanted to make it up to you. How about lunch? My treat. Emma hesitated. She wasn't sure if it was the right thing to do. After all, she was just a waitress, and he was, well, he was Liam Parker, a millionaire tech CEO, not exactly someone she could easily relate to. But despite her hesitation, something inside her told her that she needed this. Just a simple lunch, maybe to clear the awkward air. Maybe to see if there was more to this than just a misunderstanding. All right. She finally agreed, her voice softer than she expected. Lunch sounds good. They walked down the street to a nearby cafe. The atmosphere was casual, nothing like the high-end restaurant from the night before. They sat at a corner table by the window, and Liam ordered for them both, making sure to pick something simple. Emma couldn't help but notice how thoughtful he was, how natural he seemed despite his wealth. As they ate, Emma found herself opening up in ways she hadn't expected. She told him about her struggles to make rent, about her dream of opening an art studio one day. She even laughed as she told him about her disastrous attempts at cooking. Liam listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and making her feel like she wasn't just some waitress. He made her feel heard, something she hadn't felt in a long time. When they finished eating, Liam leaned back in his chair, his expression more serious now. You know, I don't usually do this, he said quietly. But I'm really glad we met last night, even if it was under strange circumstances. Emma looked at him, unsure of what to say. She hadn't expected this kind of honesty from him. I know it's a bit crazy, he continued, but I think we should keep seeing each other. No pressure. Just see where things go. What do you think? Emma's heart skipped again. She couldn't deny the connection they had, even though she barely knew him. But this was Liam Parker, the man she thought was just a random stranger at a table. Could she really go down this road? Could she trust this strange, unexpected connection? She took a deep breath, her fingers playing nervously with the edge of her napkin. I'm not sure, she admitted, looking down at the table. I'm not used to this kind of thing. Liam reached across the table, gently lifting her chin so that she would look him in the eye. You don't have to be. Let's just take it one step at a time. No pressure. For a moment, Emma just stared at him, her thoughts racing. She had been burned before, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to open up again. But Liam's sincerity was hard to ignore. All right, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Let's see where this goes. As they stood to leave, Emma felt a mix of excitement and uncertainty. She wasn't sure where this would lead, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was heading in the right direction. The next few weeks flew by in a blur for Emma. What started as a simple lunch to clear the air had turned into something more, a connection she couldn't ignore. Liam Parker wasn't just a CEO with a polished exterior. He was kind, thoughtful, and surprisingly down-to-earth. Their meetings, though casual, felt natural. She found herself looking forward to every one, no longer as a waitress and a millionaire, but as two people sharing moments of their lives. Despite their differences, the more Emma saw Liam, the more she realized how much they had in common. She shared her dreams of becoming an artist, of opening her own gallery one day. Liam listened, not as a businessman, but as someone genuinely interested in her story. And, somehow, her own walls began to come down. She began to believe that maybe, just maybe, someone like Liam could understand her dreams. But it wasn't always easy. Every time they met, Emma felt a nagging voice in the back of her mind telling her that this was just temporary, that people like Liam didn't end up with people like her. She was still the girl who worked double shifts, who couldn't make rent on time, and who had never known a world like his. And he was Liam Parker, successful, wealthy, a world apart from everything she had ever known. One evening, as they walked through the park after dinner, Emma couldn't hold it in any longer. She stopped, turned to face him, and said what had been building up inside her for days. Liam, I need to ask you something, she said, her voice wavering slightly. Why me? I'm just a waitress. I have nothing to offer you. He stopped walking, looking at her with a thoughtful expression before he spoke. Because you're real, Emma. You don't care about my money or my name. You don't see me as just a paycheck. You see me as Liam, and that means something. Emma's heart fluttered in her chest at his words. But the doubts lingered, like shadows that wouldn't go away. But I'm not like you, she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't belong in your world. For a moment, Liam was silent, and Emma regretted her words immediately. But then he reached out and gently cupped her face, lifting it so their eyes met. You belong wherever you want to, Emma. If you think I'm with you because of your job or your past, you're wrong. I'm with you because of who you are, right now. And right now, I want to be with you. His words were simple, but they carried more weight than anything she had ever heard. She felt her heart swell, and yet, the fear still lingered in the back of her mind. She wasn't sure if she was ready to open herself up completely. Not to someone like Liam, not to the life that seemed so far out of her reach. Days later, Liam invited Emma to a charity gala, a big event where all the wealthy and powerful people she had never imagined meeting would be in attendance. At first, she hesitated. She didn't want to feel out of place, but Liam insisted, saying it was important to him that she came. You'll be with me, Emma. Just relax and enjoy the night. It's just a party, nothing more, he reassured her over the phone. And so, Emma found herself standing in front of a grand venue on the night of the gala, dressed in a simple yet elegant gown. It wasn't something she would have ever picked for herself, but when Liam had insisted on picking out something for her, she hadn't been able to say no. The dress fit her perfectly, and as she stood there, staring at her reflection in the car window, she wondered for the first time if she was ready for this life. A life that, until now, had felt like a world away. When they arrived at the gala, Liam's presence was immediately noticed. He was greeted by a sea of well-dressed people, all eager to shake his hand and exchange pleasantries. Emma felt a flutter of nerves in her stomach, but Liam's reassuring smile was enough to steady her. He introduced her to several people, but she couldn't shake the feeling of being an outsider in a room full of powerful people. The conversations, the wealth, the expectations, it all felt overwhelming. But then, in the middle of the event, something unexpected happened. As Liam introduced her to yet another business associate, Emma saw someone, a woman impeccably dressed, who seemed to be eyeing her from across the room. She felt an uneasy sensation in her stomach, like she was being judged. And that was when the woman's words cut through the crowd. "Liam, I didn't know you were dating someone so unconventional," the woman said with a pointed smile, her tone dripping with condescension. Emma's heart sank, and for a moment, she thought about running out of the room. But before she could say anything, Liam stepped forward, his voice firm but calm. "She's the woman I'm seeing, and I don't need your approval," he said, his gaze never leaving the woman. The woman's smile faltered, and Emma felt a mix of emotions surge within her, gratitude, but also a deep sense of fear. Could she handle this world? Could she really be the woman Liam deserved? As the night wore on, Emma found herself retreating into the background, trying to fade into the shadows. But Liam never left her side. Despite the tension and the stares, he stayed close to her, offering small gestures of comfort, his hand brushing against hers, his presence grounding her. As the evening came to a close, Liam took her hand and led her to the balcony, where the city lights stretched out before them. "I told you, didn't I? You belong with me," he said softly, his eyes never leaving hers. Emma didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she started to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could belong here, with him. The days after the gala felt like a whirlwind for Emma. Liam's confidence in their relationship made her feel like she was stepping into a world she never thought she could belong to. Yet, every time she woke up in the morning, the reality of their worlds being so different seemed to weigh on her more and more. She couldn't help but feel like a visitor in his life, a life filled with luxury, business meetings, and parties that she was never meant to be part of. She spent her days still working at the cafe, and though she tried to shake off her insecurities, they always crept back in. Liam, on the other hand, continued to make an effort, checking in with her daily, inviting her to dinners, and even offering to help her with her art projects. She appreciated the gesture, but the more time they spent together, the more she struggled with the idea that she didn't deserve this life he was offering her. She kept telling herself that she had nothing to offer him except her heart, and yet, sometimes that didn't feel like enough. One evening, after a particularly long shift at the cafe, Emma was sitting alone in her small apartment, sketching in her notebook, when her phone rang. It was Liam. He had called her earlier, telling her he had something important to discuss with her. She answered the phone, trying to shake off the feeling that something was about to change. "Hey, Emma." Liam's voice was calm, but there was a hint of seriousness in it that made her sit up straighter. "I've been thinking a lot lately, and I want you to meet me tomorrow night. There's something I need to show you. It's important." Emma's heart raced at the sudden seriousness in his voice. She could tell that whatever he had to say wasn't just a casual chat. She agreed to meet him the next evening, wondering what on earth he had in mind. The next day passed in a blur, and by the time the evening came, Emma was a bundle of nerves. What could he possibly want to talk about? Was this the moment he was going to tell her that they weren't right for each other? She couldn't shake the feeling that things were about to change, and not necessarily for the better. When she arrived at the place Liam had asked her to meet him, she found herself standing outside a sleek building, its modern architecture stark against the night sky. It was the kind of place she had only seen in magazines, a private art gallery that showcased the most exclusive collections. She took a deep breath and walked inside, her heart pounding. She was greeted by a staff member who led her down a corridor that seemed to stretch on forever. Then, at the end of the hall, she saw him. Liam was standing in front of an empty gallery space, his back to her. The soft lighting cast a warm glow on his face, and as he turned around, his eyes softened when he saw her. Without saying a word, he walked over to her, his steps measured and deliberate. "I know you've been struggling with feeling out of place in this world, Emma," he said, his voice gentle. "But I want to show you something. Something that might change your mind." He gestured to the gallery space behind him. As they entered the room, Emma's eyes widened in surprise. The walls were lined with her artwork, her sketches, paintings, and designs. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Her work, displayed like it was in a high-end gallery, surrounded by perfect lighting and sleek frames. It felt like a dream. She turned to Liam, her mouth agape. I don't understand, she stammered, her voice shaking. How did you do this? Liam smiled softly, his eyes full of warmth. I know you've always dreamed of having your own art studio, Emma. I've been following your work for a while now, and I wanted to help make that dream a reality. This is your gallery. Everything here is yours. You'll be showcasing your work. This space is for you to take full control of. No more waiting, no more wondering if your art matters. It's time for the world to see it. Emma's heart raced, her mind struggling to catch up with the words he was saying. This wasn't just a favor. This was more than she had ever hoped for. She had spent her entire life feeling like she would never amount to anything, like her dreams were always just out of reach. But here, in front of her, was everything she had ever wanted, a chance to be recognized, to finally live the life she had always dreamed about. Liam, I don't know what to say, she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. This is too much. You don't have to do this. Liam stepped forward, taking her hands gently in his. I'm doing this because I believe in you, Emma. You have something special, something the world needs to see. And I want to be the person who helps you get there. You're not just some waitress anymore. You're someone who deserves to follow her dreams. And I'm here to make sure that happens. He paused, looking deep into her eyes. I'm not just offering you this gallery, Emma. I'm offering you a chance to start fresh, to build a life where you feel like you truly belong. Emma looked around the gallery, taking in the sight of her art, hanging on the walls, and felt a wave of emotion flood over her. She had spent so many years doubting herself, afraid of taking risks. But Liam's words, his belief in her, made her realize that maybe it was time to believe in herself, too. Thank you, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I don't deserve this, but I'll work hard to make it worth it. Liam smiled, his face lighting up with pride. You already have, Emma. You already have. He took a step closer to her, his hand gently cupping her face. Now, let's make this happen. Together. In that moment, Emma knew that her life was about to change forever, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like she truly belonged. Not just in Liam's world, but in her own. In the weeks that followed, Emma poured herself into the new gallery space Liam had gifted her. Each day felt like a new beginning. She worked tirelessly, sketching, painting, and preparing for her first official art showcase. But as much as she embraced the opportunity, the pressure weighed heavily on her shoulders. She wanted to prove herself not just to Liam, but to herself. She was no longer the girl who had barely scraped by. She was someone with real potential, someone whose art could inspire. But in the quiet moments, doubts still crept in. Could she truly belong in this world of wealth, glamour, and high expectations? One afternoon, Liam stopped by the gallery to check in on her progress. Emma was standing in front of a large canvas, her brush moving with precision as she worked on a new piece. He leaned against the doorframe, watching her, a small smile playing on his lips. You're doing amazing work, Emma, he said softly. She paused for a moment, turning to look at him. It feels like I'm finally on the right path, she said, her voice a little uncertain. But sometimes, I wonder if I'm good enough to really make it. It's hard to shake the feeling that I'm still just a waitress pretending to be an artist. She sighed, wiping a bead of sweat from her forehead. Liam stepped forward, his gaze intense but comforting. He gently placed his hands on her shoulders, turning her to face him fully. Listen to me, he said, his voice steady and sincere. You're not pretending, Emma. You're living your dream. And I'm here, not because of your past, but because of what you're capable of. This gallery, everything here, it's yours. It's a place where you can show the world exactly who you are. He paused for a moment, his eyes softening. And who you are is someone incredibly special. Never forget that. Emma swallowed, fighting the emotions that were rising within her. She had always been afraid of people seeing her true self, afraid of failing. But with Liam, for the first time, she felt like she didn't have to hide behind her insecurities. He believed in her, and maybe, just maybe, she could believe in herself. The night of her first official gallery opening arrived, and Emma stood in front of the venue, feeling a nervous excitement rush through her. The gallery had been transformed into a beautiful space filled with her paintings, each piece reflecting a part of her soul. Liam had been by her side throughout the entire process, offering support and encouragement, and now, Here they were, at the event that would change everything. As she entered the gallery, the room was buzzing with energy. People from all walks of life were admiring her work, chatting with one another, and discussing the stories behind each piece. Emma's heart raced as she saw the reactions to her art. People genuinely moved by what she had created. It was surreal. This was the moment she had worked so hard for, and she couldn't believe it was finally happening. As she moved through the crowd, she saw Liam standing at the far side of the room, talking to a group of investors. His presence was commanding, but when he caught sight of her, his face lit up with a smile that made Emma's heart flutter. He excused himself from the group and walked over to her. "You did it, Emma," he said softly, his voice filled with pride. "This is amazing. Look at all these people who are here because of you. You've worked hard for this, and it shows." He took her hand, gently squeezing it. Emma smiled, feeling a rush of gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you, Liam. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And now, I'm finally starting to believe in what I'm capable of." The night went on, and the gallery continued to fill with visitors, many of whom were eager to buy her pieces. Emma felt overwhelmed, but in the best way possible. She was finally being recognized for the work she loved, and the validation she had longed for was now within reach. But amidst the excitement, her eyes kept drifting to Liam, who was always there, supporting her, encouraging her, and showing her that she didn't have to face this world alone. As the evening came to a close, Liam walked up to her once more, his expression serious but filled with warmth. "I'm proud of you, Emma," he said. "Tonight, you showed everyone who you really are, and I'm lucky to be a part of this journey with you." He paused for a moment, then added, "You know, this is just the beginning. You've got a lot more to offer, and I'm excited to see where you go from here." Emma's heart swelled with emotion as she looked up at him. She had always feared that her past would hold her back, but with Liam by her side, she realized that it didn't define her. It was who she was becoming that mattered. "Thank you, Liam," she said, her voice full of emotion. "For everything. For believing in me." She smiled, her eyes shining with gratitude. He leaned down and kissed her gently on the forehead, a soft but meaningful gesture that left Emma feeling like anything was possible. In that moment, she knew that her life had already begun to change in ways she never imagined. She had found not only her passion, but also a love that made her feel like she was truly home. The weeks after the gallery opening were a whirlwind for Emma. The success of her first show gave her a newfound confidence, and she finally felt like she belonged in this world of art and elegance. People were buying her work, and the recognition she had longed for was now starting to materialize. Liam was always by her side, offering words of encouragement and cheering her on, but deep down, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't truly worthy of it all. She had come so far from her days of struggling just to make ends meet, but there were moments when she still felt like the waitress in second-hand clothes, the girl who didn't belong in a world of luxury and power. But with every success, those feelings slowly began to fade. One evening, Liam invited Emma to a charity event at one of the city's most exclusive venues. It was an event that attracted the city's wealthiest and most influential people. Emma felt a knot in her stomach just thinking about it. She had never been to an event like this before, and the thought of stepping into a room full of people so far removed from her world made her feel out of place. But Liam reassured her. "You'll be fine, Emma," he said, his voice warm and comforting. "You've been through much bigger challenges. Tonight will be just another step forward. And I'll be right there with you, as always." The night of the event, Emma stood in front of the full-length mirror in her apartment, adjusting the dress Liam had bought for her. It was a beautiful evening gown, elegant and perfectly tailored to fit her. For a moment, she didn't recognize the woman staring back at her. The dress was a far cry from her usual second-hand clothes, and the reflection staring back at her seemed like someone from a completely different world. She took a deep breath and reminded herself that she belonged here, at least for tonight. When they arrived at the event, Emma was immediately overwhelmed by the glitz and glamour of the venue. The room was filled with people in designer gowns and sharp suits, talking business, mingling, and laughing as if they had known each other forever. Emma stuck close to Liam, trying to blend in, but the whispers and curious glances from some of the other guests didn't go unnoticed. "Liam, thank you for inviting me," Emma said quietly as they made their way through the crowd. "I'm not sure I belong here." Liam smiled, his hand resting gently on her back. "You belong anywhere you want to be, Emma," he said with quiet confidence. "And tonight, you're here with me. That's all that matters." His words brought a sense of comfort, and Emma found herself easing into the evening, no longer as an outsider, but as part of Liam's world. As the night went on, Emma found herself engaging in conversations, learning more about the people Liam surrounded himself with. She was nervous at first, but gradually, she became more comfortable. She realized that despite the wealth and status of the people around her, they were just people with hopes, dreams, and insecurities, just like her. She was more than just a waitress now. She was someone with her own identity, someone who could hold her own in a room full of people who once seemed so intimidating. But in the midst of the conversation, something unexpected happened. One of the women who had been eyeing Emma earlier walked up to her, her smile cool and calculating. "So, you're the artist," the woman said, her voice dripping with condescension. "I've heard a lot about you. I must say, I didn't expect someone like you to make it in this world." She paused, looking Emma up and down, clearly judging her appearance. Emma felt a sharp pang of discomfort, the old insecurities rising to the surface. She opened her mouth to say something, but before she could speak, Liam appeared at her side, his posture straight and confident. "Excuse me," Liam said, his voice calm but firm. "I'd appreciate it if you would show Emma the respect she deserves." His gaze was unwavering, and the woman immediately fell silent, taken aback by his words. Emma felt a sense of relief wash over her, and for the first time that night, she realized that she wasn't alone in this world. Liam had her back, and that meant more to her than anything else. They didn't need the approval of others to validate their relationship, their lives, or their choices. It was about what they shared, not about the opinions of people who didn't matter. As the evening continued, Emma felt a surge of empowerment. She was no longer the insecure girl who worried about fitting in. She had found her place, not just in Liam's world, but in her own life. The next morning, as she stood in front of her canvas, a sense of purpose filled her. She was ready to take on whatever came next, not just for herself, but for the future she and Liam were building together. Later that evening, when they were alone, Liam took Emma's hand and led her to the balcony of his penthouse suite. The city lights sparkled beneath them, and the quiet hum of the city below created a peaceful atmosphere. "You know," Liam said, his voice soft, "I used to think that success was all about power, money, and status. But being with you has shown me that there's more to life than that. You've made me realize what really matters, and I can't imagine a future without you in it." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected him to say those words, but as they stood together, looking out over the city, she knew that this was only the beginning of their journey. She had found something real, something lasting, a love that was built not on appearances, but on trust, understanding, and shared dreams. As she looked into Liam's eyes, Emma knew that they had a long road ahead, but together, they would face it all. And for the first time in her life, she was ready to embrace the future, whatever it held. In the weeks following the charity event, Emma and Liam's relationship grew stronger. Emma continued to thrive in her art, her gallery receiving more attention and her works being sold to people who truly appreciated her talent. Yet, despite the success, there was a lingering doubt within her, a feeling that she couldn't quite shake off. The doubts came when she least expected them, especially when she was alone, away from the supportive presence of Liam. She couldn't ignore the fear that her world, her success, and everything she had built with Liam might be temporary. She had spent so long feeling like an outsider, and though she was starting to embrace her place in his world, she still questioned if it was enough. One afternoon, as she was working in her studio, she heard a knock at the door. She opened it to find Liam standing there, a concerned look on his face. He had been busy with business meetings and hadn't had much time to visit her gallery recently. "Hey," he said, stepping inside and giving her a warm smile. "I wanted to check in on you. How are things going?" His voice was gentle, but there was an undercurrent of worry. Emma hesitated before answering. She didn't want to seem ungrateful or appear weak, but she couldn't lie either. "Honestly, I'm doing okay," she said, trying to keep her tone light. "But sometimes, I still feel like I don't belong in all of this." She gestured around her studio, where her paintings covered the walls. "Like I'm just playing pretend. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for someone to realize that I don't deserve this. She bit her lip, feeling embarrassed as the words escaped her. Liam stepped closer to her, taking her hands in his. Emma, he said softly, you're not pretending. You've earned every bit of this. You've worked hard to get here, and I'm proud of you. This, he gestured to her art studio, this is where you belong. You've created something incredible, and no one can take that away from you. His voice was steady, his eyes locked onto hers with unwavering sincerity. Emma felt the familiar tightness in her chest loosen. She wanted to believe him, to trust that this life she had worked so hard to build with Liam was real. But her insecurities still lingered. I want to believe that, Emma whispered, her eyes downcast. But it's hard when I feel like I'm still the girl who didn't belong anywhere. I don't know if I'll ever shake that feeling. She sighed, pulling away slightly, not sure how to explain the nagging fear that clouded her thoughts. Liam reached for her, lifting her chin so that their eyes met. His touch was gentle but firm, as if to reassure her that everything would be okay. Emma, he said, his voice soft yet strong, I'm not going anywhere. And neither is your place here. You belong with me. You belong with this life you've built. This isn't just about art, or money, or the gallery. It's about us, about what we've created together. You're not alone in this. We're in this together, every step of the way. His words were simple, but they carried the weight of everything he had shown her over the past few months. Emma felt her chest tighten, but this time, it wasn't with fear, it was with something else. Something warm, something safe. She stepped closer to Liam, her hands resting on his chest. I believe you, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I just need to stop doubting myself, don't I? She smiled faintly, the first real smile she had given in days. Liam smiled back, his hand brushing a lock of hair from her face. Yes, he replied, but I'll be here to remind you, every day, just how much you've accomplished. And I'll be here when you need to lean on someone. You're not alone, Emma, and you never will be. In that moment, Emma realized that the fear she had been holding on to wasn't something she had to carry by herself. She had Liam, she had her art, and most importantly, she had herself. She was no longer the girl who was waiting for something to go wrong. She was the woman who had built a life of her own, one that was real, one that was hers. And with Liam by her side, she felt ready to face whatever came next. As they stood there, holding each other, the world outside seemed to fade away. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her. She didn't need to prove anything to anyone, not to the world, and certainly not to herself. She was enough, just as she was. Days turned into weeks, and Emma's confidence continued to grow. Her gallery was thriving, her artwork was being celebrated, and she was no longer the insecure woman who doubted herself at every turn. The steady presence of Liam in her life gave her strength, but there was still something on her mind that she hadn't been able to let go of. Every time she thought about her future with him, the same question resurfaced. Was she truly ready for the kind of life they were building together? Could someone like her really be part of Liam's world, a world so different from the one she had come from? One evening, as Emma was working on a new piece for an upcoming show, Liam called her to let her know that he was coming over. He had been busy with work, but he always made time to check in with her. The sound of his voice on the phone made her smile, but she could also sense the weight of something important in his tone. Hey Emma, can we talk tonight? I have something I need to tell you. It's about us, about the future. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't sure what he meant, but she felt a surge of nervous energy. Had he been having second thoughts? Was he ready to take their relationship to the next level? Or was this the moment he was going to tell her they were not on the same page? When Liam arrived later that evening, Emma could see the seriousness in his eyes. He sat down beside her, his expression thoughtful and a little guarded, as if he were weighing his words carefully. What's going on? Emma asked, her voice soft but steady. Is everything okay? Liam reached for her hand, his grip firm but gentle. He looked into her eyes, and for a moment, it felt like the weight of the world was on his shoulders. I've been thinking a lot, Emma, he began, his voice low. And I need to be honest with you. I don't want you to feel pressured, but I also don't want to hold anything back. I've spent my whole life building an empire, and in many ways, I've been focused on success, on the business. But lately, I've realized something. He paused, taking a breath. I realized that I've been so caught up in everything that I've forgotten what really matters. And what matters is you. Our future together. Emma's pulse quickened. She wasn't sure what he was getting at, but she could feel the sincerity in his words. Liam, what are you saying? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. He leaned in, his eyes never leaving hers. I'm saying that I want us to take the next step. I want us to build something real together, Emma. I want to marry you. Emma froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The words echoed in her mind as she tried to process what he had just said. Marry him? Was this really happening? She had never imagined that she would be here, in this moment, with Liam, talking about a future together. Are you serious? She whispered, still unsure if she had heard him correctly. Liam nodded, his expression softening as he reached out to touch her cheek. I've never been more serious, Emma. I know our worlds are different, but I don't care about that. I want to spend my life with you. I want you to be my partner in every way, to share everything with you. Emma felt a rush of emotions, love, fear, excitement, all swirling within her. She had never expected this, but she couldn't deny the truth of his words. She had found a love with Liam that had changed everything for her. And yet, a part of her was still scared. Was she ready for this kind of commitment? Could she live up to the life he wanted to build with her? Looking into his eyes, Emma knew one thing. She couldn't imagine her life without him. She had come so far from the girl who doubted herself, and now, with Liam by her side, she felt like she had everything she ever needed. Yes, she said softly, a smile spreading across her face. Yes, I will marry you. Liam's face lit up with pure joy, and he pulled her into a tight embrace. Emma felt his warmth, his love, and the certainty of their future together. In that moment, all the doubts, all the fears she had carried with her for so long seemed to fade away. I love you, Emma, Liam whispered, holding her close. I love you too, she replied, her heart full. And I can't wait to start this next chapter with you. As they held each other, Emma realized that the journey ahead would not always be easy. But with Liam by her side, she knew they could face anything together. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in her life, she felt ready to embrace it, fully and without hesitation. The days following Emma's acceptance of Liam's proposal were a blur of excitement, planning, and quiet moments of reflection. As they navigated the whirlwind of wedding preparations, Emma couldn't help but marvel at how much had changed in such a short amount of time. From the uncertain, insecure woman she used to be, she had transformed into someone who felt more certain of her worth, more confident in her future. The love she had found with Liam had given her the courage to embrace who she truly was, and for the first time, she felt like she belonged, not just in Liam's world, but in her own life. Their wedding day arrived, and as Emma stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her dress, she felt a quiet sense of peace wash over her. The woman in the mirror was someone she had never fully recognized until now. She wasn't just a waitress, a struggling artist, or someone always unsure of her place. She was Emma, an artist, a woman loved deeply, and the partner of a man who had shown her the kind of love she never knew was possible. When she stepped into the venue, the soft glow of candlelight filled the room, casting a romantic, intimate atmosphere over everything. The guests were gathered. The music played softly in the background, and there, standing at the altar, was Liam. His smile was brighter than any light in the room, and when their eyes met, Emma's heart skipped a beat. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the moment where all her fears and doubts faded away. As she walked down the aisle, with each step she took, Emma felt a sense of calm settle in her chest. She no longer doubted herself, no longer questioned if she belonged in this world. Liam was waiting for her, and she was ready to build a life together. She was no longer afraid of the future, because with him by her side, she knew they could face anything that came their way. When Emma reached Liam, he took her hands in his gaze soft but filled with love. You look beautiful, Liam whispered, his voice barely audible, but full of sincerity. Emma smiled, her heart overflowing with emotion. So do you. The ceremony passed in a blur, each word spoken filled with meaning and promise. When it was time for their vows, Emma looked into Liam's eyes, her voice steady but thick with emotion. Liam, when I first met you, I never imagined I would be standing here today. I never thought someone like me could have a love like this. You've shown me that I'm more than enough, that my dreams are worth pursuing, and that I deserve happiness. You believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself, and for that, I will be forever grateful. I promise to love you, to support you, and to always be by your side, no matter what life throws our way." Liam's eyes shone with pride, and when it was his turn to speak, his voice was warm, filled with a love that seemed to fill the room. "Emma, from the moment I met you, I knew you were something special. You've taught me more about love, about life, and about being true to myself than I ever could have imagined. You've made me realize that success isn't about money or power. It's about love, about the people you share your life with, and about finding joy in the little moments. I promise to stand by you, to cherish you, and to always remind you that you are more than enough." As they exchanged rings, Emma felt a sense of peace settle over her. This was it. This was the life she had always wanted. And now, with Liam by her side, she was ready to embrace every moment of it. When the ceremony ended, and they walked down the aisle together as husband and wife, Emma couldn't help but look at Liam with a heart full of love. Their journey had just begun, but she knew, with him, she could face anything. As they shared their first dance as a married couple, surrounded by their loved ones, Emma whispered to Liam, "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" Liam smiled, his arms wrapped around her tightly as they swayed to the music. "Yes," he said softly, "this is only the beginning, and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you." His words were simple, but they carried all the love, hope, and certainty that they needed. Together, they were ready to face whatever came next. And with that, Emma knew she was exactly where she was meant to be, in a life filled with love, passion, and the future she had once only dreamed of.